What's new in filmmaking technology this week? News, reviews, education, insights, opinions, and ideas from the CineD newsroom with Nino Leitner and Johnny Bahiri. This is Focus Check, the weekly Cinetech podcast.
Welcome to episode 33 of CineD Focus Check. My name is Nino.
I'm Johnny. Nino, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm always good, really. I mean, it's a little bit quiet. It's a bit gray here in Vienna. But all in all, I think we know what's coming up in the next few weeks, months. So it's going to be very, very busy.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, it's always a little bit more quiet after trade shows because everybody kind of spilled all the beans at IBC. And up until, 1.5 weeks ago, we were still publishing videos from IBC.
Some of them were really popular, actually.
Yes, yeah. Some of the last ones. We'll talk about one of them today. But there were some news. We're back to regular programming this week. Last week you saw an episode which we pre-recorded, where we talked about whether you should work for free or not. And we actually published a poll to go with that. We'll talk about that as well today, which is a very interesting thing, what people think about working for free and whether it makes sense or not. If you haven't heard that episode, I think it's very much worth listening to. A lot of the people who work for CineD actually contacted us, were like, oh, this is a really interesting topic. And I think it's something that everybody kind of has to deal with in our industry. So if you missed that, please go back to last week's episode and listen to that. It's worth having a discussion. And yeah. Okay, so this week we'll talk about a couple of new releases from Panasonic. We'll talk about a new release from us, which is the new monthly subscription from MZed. We'll start off with that. We'll talk about the FUJIFILM X Summit. We'll also talk about a new BLAZAR CATO 2X anamorphics that were teased at IBC.
At NAB
already.
NAB 2023.
Oh yeah, and now they're released with pricing and everything. And we'll talk about Blackmagic RAW from the FX9 and FX6, which was that popular video, one of the popular videos from IBC, actually one of the last ones we published. Kind of a little piece of news that was neglected by almost everybody, and we just happened to see that while we were at the booth. And yeah, the popularity of the article and the video proves that people are very interested in getting Blackmagic RAW out of Sony cameras, actually. Yeah, that's about it, and let's get started. So first thing is MZed. Our subscription-based education platform. I mean, you can purchase courses individually. We have around 60 courses available on the platform from really some of the best educators in the world, and we're very proud of that. And there is a subscription component where so far it was only possible to subscribe annually. For a very long time, we've been wanting to add a monthly option. There were some technical reasons why we couldn't do that earlier. And finally, everything is revamped in the background. There's a lot of new additions coming to the platform anyway, but this is the first major change that now you are able to subscribe on a monthly basis. And that means for $49 a month, you have access to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of very high-end filmmaking and creator courses, which is amazing. And we're constantly adding new ones. Now, if you subscribe annually, you pay once. That's the normal price is $349, and that comes down to $29 a month. And actually, if you renew, like if you continue to be subscribed after the first year, it drops down to $199, which means what is that, like $16? And we have like most of the subscribers. I think that's a secret we can share that we have on MZed have been subscribers for a very long time, for years, because they see the benefit of actually, like having, what is $16 a month, and you have full access to the library, and we're constantly expanding it. So we're very proud of that. But if you only want a teaser and you only want to check out what's there, go for the monthly subscription, $49, still same access to everything. And basically, you see the comparison here. And it's over $9,000 in course value. Like if you purchase those courses individually, of course, if you purchase them individually, you own them forever. You don't have to pay a subscription, because we know some people don't like subscription, which is fine. And if you want to have a course that you can just go back to whenever you want to, then you can just buy the course. But, if you want to really dive in, the subscription is the way to go. And also we have something that we rarely mention, but there is a whole page of discounts that people get, which are only accessible for Pro members. So a lot of discounts on gear, on other software, actually free ebooks, all kinds of things you get access to if you are a subscriber. And that's also true for the monthly subscribers. So definitely worth doing that. One course I want to highlight that we recently added, actually just before IBC, which is why it kind of fell under the radar. A lot of you guys will know Doug Jensen. He's one of the two probably most well-known Sony experts for cameras. I mean, he's been doing this for a very long time. I mean, there's Alistair Chapman, who is a good friend of ours, and Doug Jensen, and both of them, Alistair being British and Doug being American, they're really, really technical when it comes to Sony cameras and know all the bells and whistles of all the Sony cameras. Now, the Sony FX6 has been Sony's most popular cinema camera ever. And it's still, it's now 4 years old. Can you believe it? And it's still the number one choice for most documentary productions, or at least around here, but I think around the world. And the course that we have from Doug now is part of the subscription, and it's 8 hours long. It goes into every little detail you can think of with this camera. So if you want to become an expert on this camera, this is the way to go. Doug is also a professional wildlife cinematographer. We'll have another course from him, which is really about wildlife cinematography, added to the MZed subscription very soon. This is just, not long away. And and he really dives into the FX6. We also have a new landing page for that course, which, shows you all what it's about. If you complete the entire course, you get a certificate, which, of course, it's probably not something that a producer will ask you for. But if you want to prove that you know that camera, you will only get that certificate if you watch the entirety of those 8 hours, which is true for any certificate you get on MZed. We do have ARRI certificates. ARRI Academy runs through MZed as well. So if you are somebody like a camera assistant, for example, who needs to learn the ARRI LF, Alexa LF, for example, that course will go through MZed, and sponsored, ARRI actually directs you to MZed to watch that course, and then when you finish it, you also get a certificate which is from ARRI. So it's definitely worth a lot, because that proves that you know everything about a camera.
There's also 1 hour for free now to watch the first lesson.
Yes.
If you log in. I think it's important to highlight this. So just try and see if that's something for your liking. And
Yes, 27 lessons actually. And the first one, like you said, is a free lesson, which is an introduction and overview of the Sony FX6. Entirely free. You just need to create a free account on MZed to watch that, and then you can decide if it's for you or not. But it already gives a very good overview of that camera. And I've heard from a lot of people who probably got started with alpha cameras and then are asked by a production to shoot on the FX6. And the big question mark for a lot of those people is, what is CineEI? Like the CineEI mode in Sony cameras that the FX6, for example, uses, and FX9 and so on. This course, and also even the introduction, will already explain that. So go check it out. Yeah. We'll put the link in the show notes to the course, and also to the article that announces the monthly subscription. Yeah.
I think if I have to summarize what MZed is, it's literally helping you to be the filmmaker you always wanted to be. And I think that's important to highlight.
Yeah, it's a film school without going to film school.
Great.
Yeah. We'll be back after this message from our sponsor.
1 Minute Tips by FUJIFILM and CineD. RAW video support has increased in the last few years, so let's see why it might be useful for you. RAW video differs from other conventional formats in that it stores all the data captured by the sensor with no compression. Many still cameras have actually supported RAW photos for a while, and theoretically, this option has always existed for video, but only with the recent advancements in storage efficiency and processing power has this become more feasible. The benefit: retention of a lot more detail in color and tone, less or no noise reduction, ability to change things like white balance and sensitivity after recording, and more information in shadows and highlights. Now, unless you are working with a big production or post house, RAW is likely overkill in most cases. In the grand scheme, most conventional lossless codecs have improved to a point where compression is virtually indistinguishable. However, if you crave having the most pristine image, then give it a try. But beware, this option can dramatically increase your file size, and you'll need a good grasp of processing this format if you don't want to slow down your post. More codec discussions coming soon here on 1 Minute Tips. Until next time.
And now back to the show. Let's move on to that poll that we talked about from last week's episode. So Johnny wrote a poll if you will work for free for exposure. That's the standard kind of question. A lot of people asking you, will you work for free and do me a favor, or will you do, next time I'm going to pay you properly, or is it a student project and so on. So
it's really good for your reel.
It's good for your it's
going to help you in the future. But
yeah,
we covered that to some extent in our last week. Yeah. So I don't want to go into this. But in regards to the poll, almost 400 people took the time to actually vote. And the voting is very interesting because you can see how people, first of all, say, hey, it depends on the situation. Imagine that a very famous director is asking you to work for free. I guess many of us will say, okay.
I think one person commented that it's like, if Chris Nolan asks me, I'm all about it. Otherwise, no thanks.
No, but so this is a very thoughtful answer, meaning people are not like robots. They're thinking nicely, they're thinking in the right direction. Depends on the situation, how it can benefit the individual when doing something like this. So that's the majority, like 170 votes. And then it's really nice to see it's almost between 61 to 66. So it's almost the same. Yeah. Some said, I will never work for free. And others will say that I was asked to work for free and I said yes. And then the last option was, I've been asked to work for free and said no. So all of those three options are literally equal. And that's fine. I mean, I think it's
like we talked like last week, there is not a simple answer to that question because, like most people agree, depends on the situation, right?
That's right. So we will continue, of course, to publish polls like this. Most of those questions are coming from our personal interest. But if you guys have something that you would like to, may I say, drill the brain a bit deeper and get the community to answer, just write us. I mean, we are very happy to consider to kind of open the poll thing. And if you have a question, we will to ask our audience, we will consider and write a short article around it and hopefully publish this. But we
just
will
email us at podcast@cined.com with any suggestions for polls. We're very open to that.
It's a lot of fun at the end of the day. And of course, when you see some of the comments either in our site or Instagram, you know that people are engaged to answer.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that the poll is on the website and then they just comment on Instagram, but that's fine. But yeah, so there's a lot of opinions on that topic. Of course, it's always also interesting to read the comments on these things. And definitely a community thing where I think it's important to get the discussion going, and also especially for people like we mentioned last week, for people starting out to kind of raise awareness that not everything that seems shiny is gold.
As long as you don't feel being kind of used, I think it's okay. So it's really up to the individual. Just don't feel used. Respect yourself and what you do. And if you see any benefit for that, go for it. Otherwise, there will always be another opportunity.
Well, one good comment that I saw was that some people are actually, when they do work for free, they will even quote the production company or whoever they work for free for, and then say what it would usually cost, and then discount it 100%, so that there is some value attached to it. Because, like we talked about before too, it's like
free has no value, huh?
Exactly. What's free is worth nothing for people because they seem they can't, and that just makes them reconsider that the time and equipment, whatever, is valuable, of course. So that's actually a very good idea. I think if you do work for free, let them know how much it would usually cost, and even in writing, because that makes a difference. Yeah.
Can I add a joke and say just add one more zero? Joking.
At the front, yeah, because you were going to
At the
work
back,
for nothing.
At the back. Okay.
Okay, let's move on to the Panasonic announcements from a couple of days ago.
From yesterday, by the time you hear this, it's 2 days ago.
Exactly.
Actually.
That's why I say a couple of days ago,
okay.
so it's not dated, but you just dated it. So basically, Panasonic announced firmware updates to the LUMIX S5 II, S5 IIX, and G9 II, and also added LUMIX Lab support to those cameras. So what can you tell me about those firmware updates?
So nothing is really earth-shaking, but all in all, I think it's nice to see that the company is committed to enhance the possibilities and the value of what you do with the camera in the sense of production. So they are adding the Leica monochrome photo style. That's for the S5 II and the S5 IIX, because the S9 II already had it. And there is, of course, the LUMIX Lab app, as you said, and this is quite a nice thing because you can literally create your own LUTs and then use them. There's also a nice library that you can rely on. So now those 3 cameras are supporting it. There's also support for the new audio adapter, the XLR audio adapter, the one that was introduced with the GH7. Mm-hmm. But please note, originally with the GH7, you can record 32-bit float audio. Here, that will not suddenly come out of the blue because I guess it's also a hardware limitation. But at least you are able to use the latest XLR adapter from Panasonic. And of course, there are small other things, all in all, improvement in operational and stability. But those enhancements are already available as of October 9th. So you can just add to LUMIX Global Customer Support website. In our article, you have the link and can update your camera. I think it's, it's moving forward, even if it's a small update, but it's nice to see that they are actually thinking about the customers. In between, I just want to say before we move to the next update, there was actually an announcement of a new camera from Panasonic, which we did not cover.
Oh, really?
Yes, and this is the S5D. And if the 5D sounds familiar, that's not us this time.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the thing. And this is, I have to say, Panasonic marketing team did not really do a good job here. First of all, in all honesty, we are being briefed beforehand about some of the enhancements and what's about to come. And that camera was simply not mentioned in this brief. That's one thing. And the second thing is, out of nowhere, suddenly it came yesterday, and it's targeted only for the European market and not for the American market. And it has some enhancements in the, like adding LiDAR support for that camera. And the viewfinder is now OLED, with a bit better quality. I have to say that Panasonic already did something similar with their, what was that, G100 camera. This is a smaller one. From what I remember, I hope I get the model number correct. It's kind of half announcement. There is an enhancement, hardware enhancement to the camera, which is good, but then they keep the model almost the same, also the model number, and then they don't really communicate this quite well. And then it's also some like region restricted. Very hard for me to follow the logic, the marketing logic, of why it has been done like this. We try to get answers from Panasonic, but yeah, it is what it is, I guess. So just that you guys know, there is also a new camera from Panasonic, almost like a spoken, uncovered.
Weird.
Yeah, but that's how it is. Good. I think that's about the firmware update of that camera.
All right. And next is, the LUMIX S9, which we didn't review, which was something where we talked about that actually at the time in a podcast, that there was this whole buzz around this camera from influencers and so on, because they really marketed it as a colorful like different color versions available, and kind of probably competing with the Fujifilm X106, I think, in terms of like lifestyle product. But they just released also a firmware update for that camera, removing recording limits, right?
Yeah, that's one of the enhancements, but that's the major one, because this camera, we haven't touched it, but I have to say that on paper and what I saw online, it looks like a very nice small camera. It's very small, lightweight, as you said, lifestyle, but also in our kind of fast-paced generation, when you want to go out and shoot, it looks like a great companion. Up until now, and it's also a capable camera. I mean, it can even do open gate. Can you imagine that? So up until now, it could have done 6K open gate up to 10 minutes and 15 minutes for 4K. And that camera do have 4K 50 and 60p and 6K 25 and 30p. But so the time was limited. Now they removed the limit here, the time limit, but please don't forget the hardware is still the same. So that means I don't know how it will affect the overheating of that camera. It's not that suddenly there's a magic, but this is something to try and see for how long the camera can record now. But again, I think it sounds like Panasonic is listening to customers, and I think it's a nice add-on for the camera. The other thing that they did, they added some frame markers, and that's also important in this new social media world. Now you can literally put 9:16 and a bit more as an overlay. Exactly. So you can really see better what you're filming, what's in the frame. And the last thing that they're also added is 2 new autofocus tracking modes. One is for airplanes and the other one is for trains.
Airplanes.
Yeah.
That's kind of random.
It is for trains. I can understand because that's very much in the Japanese tradition. I mean, there are trains everywhere, and I understand why it's important. Airplanes,
With a long lens for that. Yeah. Anyway,
I don't know, but still, I think it's legit. Yeah, and you get this update for free, so there's nothing to complain about. Our friend, colleague, writer Omri also wrote a nice article about the update, and I think it's quite nice to see that he added a simple question. So with those updates, do you guys think that the LUMIX S9 becomes a pro camera for now? What do you say?
I don't know. I would have to touch it and just compare features. I think it's just interesting, this camera in general, that is really, I mean, in terms of like what it looks like and the price, I think it's very much probably Panasonic's reply to the X100 5 and 6 from Fujifilm, which has been an unexpected, I think that's fair to say, especially the 5, because that was the original big success, unexpected viral hit almost for. And it somehow happened through TikTok. I mean, we had this conversation with Victor Ha from Fujifilm, who said here on episode 26. So if you missed that, very, very interesting discussions. And we talked about the fact what makes a lifestyle camera like that successful. And I think this is Panasonic's attempt to follow in that and kind of get some of that market, maybe get some of the people who are still waiting for the Fujifilm X106, because I don't know if it's still, they're
there's back order.
It's still back ordered, and have another similarly sized, similar priced camera with similar capabilities, but full frame, right?
It is full frame, yeah. But
so, which is the other one is not. Yeah.
For me, it's a bit hard to say, like it's a bit of a chicken and egg, because it's not that you decide on a camera from one day to another, like when it comes to developing a camera. So obviously that has been in the pipeline for quite some time, but But
I think, never know what the marketing decides at the end. I mean, with those different colors, it's definitely not targeted at professionals.
It's a lifestyle. And now they even added 2 new colors, actually 3. For the American market, they will get the mint green and sakura.
Sounds like a
sakura.
Sounds like a stock nightmare. Like, like which color do you stock, and then
I don't know,
just produce enough of them,
and
for too many of the others.
European market will get the white one.
Okay.
So what can I say? I mean,
Yeah, well, I mean, one thing that Victor said that really stuck in my mind was that the younger generation who is just used to using their phone as a camera actually is completely overwhelmed by the options on the phone and the distractions, the constant distractions. So they're looking for a dedicated device again, whereas I guess for us who have been, I grew up without a smartphone and then got a smartphone later on, basically it was vice versa. It was vice versa, right? You started with a camera and then you were like, oh, cool, I have all these options and I can still take photos. And now for others, it's the other way around. It's like you can do everything, but that means you will also never be concentrated on doing the one thing, which smartphone manufacturers want you to do now is really upgrade because you have a better camera in the next generation, right? Because that's the only reason why you would upgrade a phone these days, unless you're a hardcore gamer, which I know nobody who's a hardcore gamer on a phone.
Unless you want to hear your grandmother better. No, but
yeah,
the quality
even that he already sounded good on the iPhone 15. So yeah, but that's the thing, right? And people probably want a more dedicated device, and of course the connectivity has to be there to the smartphone to be able to drop off stuff easily. I mean, you see this image here which actually shows easy cropping modes inside the camera app.
But
and
still,
all that stuff.
I don't think they nailed it 100%. I think the manufacturers are still struggling how to make a proper camera more a phone style. But all in all, this is a very successful segment, and all we can say that that's not the end of it. It will continue to grow. You don't need to have any internal information. It's very logical. If a manufacturer sees an opportunity and a market to grow, they will definitely go for it.
Well, one thing that a lot of people with the Lumix line are a bit curious about what is in general happening with professionals, Panasonic cameras, because we've never seen a successor to the EVA 1, which is their Pro Cine body camera, which was to compete with an FX9 or FX6 and C300 whatever from Canon. So and that never got a successor. We also have never seen a successor, a newer VariCam. That was the VariCam LT and the big VariCam, but we've never seen successors to that. So it seems like, and like you said, we don't have any more information, which is why we can easily talk about that. It seems like they have kind of abandoned this market for now, and I just hope that they will continue to release higher end mirrorless cameras at least, which like people are waiting for a successor to the S1H and some of the other cameras in the line. I mean, the S5 II and S5 IIX are very capable cameras.
Actually, Nino, you are just in the middle of a production.
Yeah,
and
just wanted to mention that.
You're working on a big production that requires a lot of cameras inside a car.
Mm-hmm.
And you are testing with your team few cameras from different manufacturers, and then eventually you settled on Panasonic LUMIX.
Yeah.
Why is that?
So basically the challenge of this project is that it's a dating show, and you've been there for one day as well.
Wait. Sorry, guys. I've been there working, not that I was there for dating. Yes, so
That's true.
I was there. Come
You're
on.
not there.
I was there.
You were there
where's my
for
wife?
work. You were shooting with me, which was very nice. And so basically it's a dating show. So in the front of the car looks like that for people who watch the video version of this. I'm also going to describe it. So it's a Volkswagen ID bus, that electrical thing from Volkswagen. And I mean, you would think that car has a lot of space inside, but it really does not, because on the back seat, there's not a lot of headroom. I mean, you see a photo here of some of the candidates sitting in there. The guy in the middle is around 2 meters tall. I don't know what that in feet is, but he's tall. And he's almost touching the ceiling. And the challenge is that basically the 3 dating candidates and the single who is sitting in front on the co-driver's seat are not supposed to see each other. So that is a logistical production challenge, and there is a wall in between. I think you can see it here. So the set dresser made a little wall that really separates the front from the back, and and then in the front there is the moderator. Let me see if I have a photo here. Yeah, here's the moderator is driving, and on the co-driver's seat is the single who is dating the three on the back. And it's a fun show. The challenge being, of course, we need cameras that are filming every single person. And the TV station specifically asked for a close-up on each person. So it's not like we can
use GoPros or
actually we tested
Osmo.
everything. We tested GoPros, we tested the DJI Osmo Action 4 and 5, and compared to a lot of productions that were there in the past. Actually, the producer who asked me to do this, he asked me because for people who have been followers of CineD and Cinema 5D for long enough might know that we used to do a talk show in a car called On The Go, which we recorded in Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Amsterdam, even in Poland at Camera Image once. So it was like that. So we had action cameras in the car filming us discussing. And he knew this format. He was like, oh, Nino did this thing before. He might be the right person to ask for that. Now, we compared a lot of formats that have done this before. We compared On The Go, of course. We compared Carpool Karaoke by James Corden. There was also the Comedians in Car Having Coffee by Jerry Seinfeld and many others. And you can see how they progressed with, especially on Carpool Karaoke, you could see like the first versions, the first episodes were definitely shot on action cameras. And as they progressed, they upgraded the cameras and the lighting got better and everything. And there were actually leaked images, but that's a different story of them not actually driving sometimes. They were just on a low later, like literally on another car pretending to drive. But most of the times they were actually driving. But you could see how the image changed. So we decided very quickly we needed proper cameras because, how action cameras are. Everybody uses them because they're nice throwaway shots. But if the main gist of a show, and in this case, probably 70% of the show, and it's a 1 hour primetime show, will come from the car, you need proper image, right? And you need a lot of angles to cover that because they need ways to cut down discussions and so on.
Build an action, kind of like a tension and action.
Exactly. And so basically we decided it needs to be larger sensor cameras. And then the question was which one would be the best. We tested Sony Alpha cameras. We tested some of the even Canon cameras. And we tested the Lumix line. And I ended up finding that the Lumix cameras in general, especially the newer models, were the best. I mean, the stabilizer was already good on older ones. The challenge we had was literally the autofocus. So
autofocus and stabilizing. That's the combination that you needed in order to find the perfect camera.
And we know, I mean, you've done a lot of videos on past Panasonic cameras where we were a little bit frustrated about the autofocus performance, which has gotten a lot better, of course, since they finally introduced a phase-based autofocus. Only with the GH7, actually. I thought it was with the GH6, but we tested the GH6 and it wasn't there, right? We had the GH6 next to the GH5 and the GH7, and really only the GH7 was good enough. We did. There's no way to influence this, right? You cannot. There's no space for a technician to sit in the back. Unfortunately, that we kind of set with this car. They want the TV channel wants this car, right? I would take another car simply logistical reasons and space. But so we had to work with that car. There's no space to have somebody in the back because you would see the person, even if they are in the trunk, and then it's a safety issue, of course. So basically, the cameras need to be able to run on autopilot, and that means auto exposure, autofocus, and stabilization. And the stabilization and autofocus really only. The combination of that, like you said, was really only good with the Lumix. And specifically, we ended up with, I think now it's 4 or 5 GH7s in this car and a S5 II and an S5 IIX, because those are almost on par in terms of autofocus and stabilization. We also tried other full-frame predecessors, like the the original S5 not good enough with autofocus again, right? Stabilization also got better. So yeah, it's really and they're very reliable because those cameras need to sometimes run. They're actually shooting today, so I'm in the WhatsApp chat. I'm only shooting a couple of days because we have other stuff to do. But they're driving around Austria doing that. They're shooting right now, and so far these cameras have not failed. I mean, the cameras were never the problem, right? What has created some problems is yesterday they had a DJI action corruption, like file corruption, because it was running for 1.5 hours and suddenly the files were not readable. We don't know why. No problem with the Lumix cameras. They had a problem with the wireless video because we're running all the video on two.
There's a car behind with the
there's a car,
director,
yeah, of course,
and
there's
actually
several
you
cars.
as a DOP, and you can literally
Yeah.
see
The image.
all the cameras.
Yeah.
I'm so, and you're using a wireless connection between
I have some images of that here in the trunk of the car. We have a lot of technology. Actually, all the cameras are powered from big battery blocks, like block batteries. Those prepper batteries, so you don't have to rely on changing batteries all the time. So they all go in with AC basically, and that works really well. And we also have wireless. We have ATEM. An ATEM ISO, actually one of the ones we usually use here, the Blackmagic ATEM Mini Pro ISO, which shows a split screen like this, and that's actually the Atomos. We also have the Atom Cast, so we both have the where's the Blackmagic is back there, and here's the Atom Cast, and they're showing split screens, and this split screen image we are transmitting using an Axon and also DJI wireless video transmission to the next car. And that works really well, actually, with screen overlays. So we actually see which camera is recording. And before people are saying, why don't you do this with Blackmagic cameras? Because you can control them through the ATEM. That's true. And we tested this.
But what about autofocus and stabilization?
Well, there is autofocus, but it's bad. That's one of the things. And exactly, the stabilization is not there. There is some gyro with some of them, which you can do in post. But we tested it because there was we rented a whole system from a rental house here. They did another car show where they actually used the little, what are they called, the little cube cameras from Blackmagic to do that. And we set them up on the testing days next to those cameras, and it just, I mean, the image just kind of fell off a cliff. Like the producer looked at we all looked at the images, and we did a blind test afterwards, and it was just immediately clear that it has to go Lumix because it looked great, right?
So before I touch again the stabilization thing, you shooting in log picture profile or color already embedded?
No, we have to shoot in log because, and that's also great because I don't have the image. Unfortunately, I don't have a still of the image here, but you might be able to see it here on the back camera in the middle. So there's a wide camera. There's 3 cameras for the back seat. And the middle one is a wide. It's like 16, 18 mil on a full frame. That's on a S5 2X. And that exactly shows the 3 candidates in the back. But you see out the back window, right? And we have lights. We have light mat or Aladdin light mats, like these flexible LEDs stuck to the ceiling, both in front and in the back. And there's not a lot of space in between because of that wall in between the candidates and actually the wall. So you need to use a relatively wide lens. But you see out in the back. So if we didn't use log, you would just have a blown out background. And with this, it looks great. Actually, even with a preview LUT, you have complete, you see the street in the back. And the cool thing is that the candidate actually covers the car, like the follow car where we sit in. You don't see the follow car because he's just sitting in the middle. So you don't actually see that car. And that's why we need log, basically. There's a lot of light changes, and it's auto ISO and it's all auto aperture. Of course, the shutter needs to stay the same. So the aperture and the
white balance,
the ISO, that is set to daylight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stabilization wise, if you remember in the old days, it was actually Olympus that was really, really, really good. And Panasonic, being part of this Micro Four Third Alliance, were not so far behind. And I think by now, because Panasonic is really doing a really great job, and the GH7 I think is really the pinnacle when it comes to stabilization here.
Yeah. And the reason why we use both GH7 and S5 and S5 II and S5 IIX is simply we need a full frame camera both in front and in the back for the wide, for the master shot, and then we use the Micro Four Third cameras, the GH7s, for the close-ups.
So it's because the image is cropped in a way, so
we tested even having the GH7 also for the wide in front and in the back, but the problem is you will need, due to the 2x crop, you will need a much wider lens, and then the distortion, it just looks terrible. I mean, you instead of a 16mm, you need an 8mm, and it just, there is no good 8mm that doesn't distort. So that's why we did a combination of them, and it looks, the producer and the editor is very happy so far, I think. And I mean, we have a very good team on this too. Yeah, it's a lot of stress for the camera assistant actually to change all those batteries, and there's a lot of learning every day. But I think now it's shooting day number 6 or something today, so they kind of figured it out. There's always something that can break and not work, but so far they've gotten through everything. Yeah.
Talking about this production and Panasonic announcements that happened a couple of days ago, Panasonic announced the LUMIX S9 40mm. It's not such a fast lens. It's only f4.5 to 6.3, but it's the smallest and the lightest full frame zoom lens. I mean, it's like it's around 500 grams, which is literally nothing, and it's a full frame pancake zoom lens. I think
that would be a good fit for that show for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And on the wide, wide, in such a small space in the car, the 18mm could have been quite helpful. And those cameras are good with a higher ISO, so I think that could compensate.
I originally wanted to take the Lumix, it's the 20 to 60 mil.
That's the kit lens, basically.
Is it? Well,
I think there are two of them. If I'm not mistaken, there's one from Panasonic, one from Leica.
I mean, it's an f2.8 all the way through, but the problem is 20 is not wide enough because, and then we ended up using a Sigma L mount lens, which works really well. Which is, I think, I don't recall, but it starts at 16 or 18 mil as well, and goes up to 40. So that looks really great. Yeah.
So back to this lens, to this new lens that was just introduced. So that is a perfect companion for the LUMIX S9 body because it's also very small. And of course, if you want to use it on any of the other Panasonic LUMIX full frame cameras, I think it can work really well. It's for almost shy of $500. So it also makes sense. And I think it kind of, in a fashionable way, reducing the overall kit that you have. Of course, if you would want to go for something faster, mechanically, technically, optically, that means to grow the lens. And I think that's not what Panasonic was looking after here. They try to reduce, and very nice offering, actually.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's not easy to make a small zoom lens for a full frame camera. And to...
I think that's the smallest ever, actually.
Yeah.
I can't remember everything that we covered so far, but from as far as I'm concerned, for full frame, this might be the smallest and the lightest full frame zoom lens, and 18 to 40 millimeter. I think it's also a nice range all in all for kind of run and gun.
Yeah, if a lot of the stuff we talk about with regards to lenses and focal lengths is all gibberish to you, I just see here, like we have the course, The Art and Science of Lenses by Tal Lazar, which is a very cool introduction in, what makes a lens and what's the difference between lenses. So that's a really good course to dive into that subject if you're interested in that. Anyway, just a side note, but yeah.
Shall we finish the lens part of the discussion and move to the BLAZAR CATO lens series that was already introduced briefly to us during NAB 2023, and now it's the time to 24, even 20...
1 year ago? 1.5?
No, 24. Yeah. 24. Sorry, guys. Time is running so fast. Yeah. So now it was the time to officially announce those lenses. They made some changes between the prototypes and the final version. One of those changes was to unify the front diameter, which is really essential. You can't have a kit and have different front diameters. Now they settled for 82 millimeter, which is good. And the focal lengths are, let's start from the beginning, saying that those anamorphic lenses are 2 times squeezed, which is really great. And they are all under 1 kilo. So that's very lightweight, and they're relatively small. And they will come in 4 focal lengths, the 40, 55, 85, and 125 millimeter. Depending on what you want to buy, but there's a special price for the kit. I think it's 4,000. Let me quickly see. Yeah, for the kit is $4,600. And if you want to buy those individually, it's like $1,300, but the 40 millimeter, which is very desirable focal length for anamorphic, and that will be $1,500. And this lens in particular, the 40 millimeter, will be shipped only in February 2025. All the rest of the kit will be here already in November next month. And
you shouldn't forget that 40 millimeter equals a spherical field of view of 20 millimeter, right?
You want to do the math again? I'm
2x.
very bad in this, but
Well, it's 2 times now. So for this, it should be twice as wide, if I'm not mistaken, because it's of course, because I'm used to the Remus BLAZAR, which are 1.5x squeeze. And
So just mount wise, they're all going to come in PL or EF mount, all those 4 lenses, and the aperture, depending on the lens, the 1450 are T2, and then the 85 is 2.8, and the 125 is T4. But all in all, I think what we're seeing lately from BLAZAR is really, it's very nice to see how this company pushes forward with autofocus anamorphic lenses that we covered. Watch this space for a review coming soon. And the Remus, the 1.5, and now the Cato 2X.
Also watch this space for reviews coming soon. I've been working on this forever.
Within this year. We promised the review.
I shot a full documentary with them. I love them. Yeah.
No, it's not only the anamorphic part, but the aesthetic, the picture aesthetic from those lenses is simply nice.
I agree.
For the price.
They look very, very. They look like a lot more money than they actually cost.
True.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. So that's it for lenses today, and let's move on to Blackmagic RAW recording from Sony cameras. So one of the last videos we published from IBC was about that topic. Actually, the main video we did there were not a lot of announcements from Blackmagic Design for IBC because, of course, they spoiled us with lots of new cameras at NAB. But at IBC, they announced a 5-inch monitor for the Pixis camera that is now starting to ship slowly. And it's nice. It's a nice video too. Can put the link in the show notes as well. It's basically a touch screen that lets you control the camera fully, and a preview screen. It sits on top of the cameras like with a red camera. But they also have something just on the side of the booth, which we were like, oh, interesting. Now there's going to be a update to the, what are they called? Blackmagic Video Assist recorder monitors. It's such a weird name. Why is it called?
In general, the names are
Video Assist.
They're doing great stuff, but the naming is sometimes.
Video Assist is the name for their monitor recorders. You wouldn't know if you knew, but they are getting a firmware update, and they're working, like Blackmagic is working with Sony to allow RAW recording from the FX9 and the FX6. So for the FX9, of course, you need that bulky, what is it called? XDCA FX9 $2,000 accessory thing that nobody has. I'm saying that because it's really ridiculously large and expensive, because most people, including me, who are FX9 users, use a different solution to use V-mounts on this camera because I don't really need the RAW out of this camera. And it's just a RAW out. It's not a recorder, right? It's just the SDI. And the FX6, its smaller sibling, has the SDI that does the RAW out built into the camera. So for that, I think this is mostly relevant. That's why this is mostly relevant for FX6 users, because FX9 users will still need that expensive accessory. But FX6 users don't need any accessory and can just connect a video assist monitor from Blackmagic Design to record Blackmagic RAW into that monitor recorder. Now, that's exciting, of course, because the Sony cameras, none of these Sony cameras has any internal RAW recording. So, and with DaVinci Resolve gaining a lot of popularity, it's very nice to have more other manufacturers being entered into that ecosystem of Blackmagic RAW. And I can definitely see this being successful, basically.
And the video assist monitor is not so expensive also. So I think this combination of usability, and if RAW is important for you on your FX6, maybe this is something to consider.
And one thing I simply wasn't aware of, and I'm open about that, is that they already support a lot of other cameras and from other manufacturers with Blackmagic RAW using the video assist. And we have a list of that in the article. There's the Canon C300 Mark II, I guess the Mark III II, I guess. I mean, it's not as relevant anymore for those cameras because, of course, the newer Canon cameras have RAW light internally anyway, so you probably don't need Blackmagic RAW. But anyway, that camera has the output. A lot of cameras from Fujifilm are supported. The Leica, Nikon, Panasonic, lots of Panasonic cameras, even the Sigma FP and Zcam camera. So yeah, basically they have all the big manufacturers now supported for Blackmagic RAW. We just wish, that we had it internally, right? I mean, Blackmagic says to us that they are open to that, but we were told that so far either nobody has shown interest or whatever. So basically, I don't think they actually charge for the license fee for it, as far as I know. And they would be open to support Blackmagic RAW internal from camera manufacturer for cameras that are not Blackmagic cameras, which is exciting, of course, because there are brands like Panasonic and some others that don't actually have a RAW codec. That would be great. I mean, imagine just having a firmware update for your Panasonic LUMIX camera to allow Blackmagic RAW recording, if it's possible. So
yeah, I don't see how Blackmagic's design will benefit from it, because that means that
more people using DaVinci.
Yeah, but that's, at the end they're selling now their cameras because of that. So maybe that will cut some sales.
At least they say that they're open to the idea. So if that's true or not, we don't know. But you never know where the resistance comes from. Good.
Last but not least,
Fujifilm X Summit on October 14th. What can you tell me about it?
So it's almost, not almost, this is becoming a traditional. We have at least twice a year, like a summit from Fujifilm, and this time it will be held in Tokyo at the Clay, and Clay is the place where Fujifilm is designing their cameras. I was fortunate enough to be there, and this is really simply a beautiful place. We conducted some interviews there with Fujifilm people before for the GFX 102 and so on. So of course I saw only a section of it. Maybe in the future we will be able to do a kind of a complete tour and expose more how and where they designed their cameras. But the summit will be held there, and what we know for sure, that few things will be announced or being shared with the public. First of all, the GFX 102 and the XH2S and the XH2 will get a firmware update. And this firmware update is quite important. First of all, because I don't know if you guys have been following, but Fujifilm hasn't been doing quite well with autofocus lately. It seems like that the latest firmware updates actually broke the autofocus performance, not only of those cameras, also the XT5 and the XT50 and so on. Personally, we can see that the performance has declined. So it's nice to see that the new firmware update hopefully will solve this issue. What about the XT5 and the for example, XT50? they say that they are aware of the issues and they will probably issue some firmware update in the future, hopefully within this year, but there's no definite answer here. The other thing which is quite good or quite interesting is there's a new F-Log2C film simulation. It's more like a wider gamma out, and I'm very curious to see how this will look like on those cameras. But it means, I don't know what, if the C is maybe cinema, I don't know. This is maybe a sign of future, of things to come. We don't have any information, but obviously Fujifilm is aware of our needs as filmmakers, and this film simulation is really targeting filmmakers. So I'm very happy to see that there's also a new simulation here. So, and there will be also subject tracking while video filming. This is new for those cameras.
They didn't support lockets before? That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Some cameras, yes. The GFX 102, from what I remember, already supported it, but I really can't remember which one is not. So let's wait for the X Summit. And of course, many of you will ask if there's anything else that will be announced in this event. All I can say, or all we can say, is let's wait and see. I mean, it's always interesting to watch those summit events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Last but not least, quick mention of an article that our dear writer Masha wrote. She's always writing about filmmaking, education, and sometimes AI stuff. And last week, she wrote about split screens in films and the visual stories they tell. And she did a very nice overview of a lot of famous examples, also historical examples, and how split screens can be used to tell a story and actually augment the shooting, right? If they're properly planned and properly executed. Really from historical examples over to Kill Bill, like other movies, The Queen's Gambit, very popular Netflix series, of course, and many other examples, and how you can utilize them as well. And all this information is taken from, leaned on an MZed course as well. So it's a nice overview. And just don't forget to check out our educational content as well. You will always find it under the how-to section on the website, under the label MZed Education. And yeah, just a very insightful piece on how you can utilize split screens to tell a story. All right, and let's wrap it up here. Next week, I think we're going to have more new hardware announcements, what we don't have this week. Yes, we will, I know.
We will.
Yes.
When are we? Yeah, of course.
And so there's going to be more to talk about next week in terms of new stuff. And thanks everybody for watching. Stay tuned. Don't forget to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere you can get podcasts, YouTube, of course. Don't forget to leave a comment, give us a good rating, leave a thumbs up. Whatever you can do, send this podcast to a friend. We'd like to have more audience. Thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you.